So in preparation for the demo, I was graciously given one of these molds here to use to test out before we actually do the demo. And these were the test blanks that I made, and I cut these blanks down. Normally out of the molds are, I believe, 1 inch by 7/8. So these will give you a fairly big pen blank. All right. I cut these down to 3/4 inch, which is typically the size you want. And you will notice on the pen blanks, I didn't change the length of them. All right. And you will see on the ends that they contour down. All right. So I'm going to warn you now, when you fill your mold up and you cast it, when it cures, it's always going to pull in at the ends. And the reason it pulls in at the ends is because this is a thermal setting resin, which means it creates its own heat to cure. All right? And when it does that, the bulk of the heat is generated on the inner portion of the pen blank. So what it does is when it cures, it'll draw resin from the coolest area. And of course the coolest area is going to be the ends, and that's why the resin tips down at the very ends. This is another reason why they make the pen molds, or the casting molds, a little bit bigger than an average pen blank size, is so that when you're done, you can actually clean them up, right? These are just over 5 inches long, so there's plenty here for a pen, right? For a two-piece pen, or 2 Sierra pens. And you know, the 2 Sierras, and you'll still have leftover resin, right? So I'm going to pass these around. This is a 2-color cast, orange, black, with orange dye. All right? And a 2-color cast, what you're looking for is to get color separation between the 2 colors, which is what really makes them attractive. If you pour these too soon, they will just wash together and you'll end up with a muddy looking result in the castings. All right? So I'm going to hand this around. I'm also going to hand around an empty mold, right? This is what they were cast in. This is the type of mold, and these are the blanks that you're going to get from that. So some of the equipment and tools that we need. It's a lot of things. So we have the mica pigments. We have those here. I believe William Woodwright has 20 or so different colors. They also sell dyes. All right? Very, very intense dyes. And you'll see that when I go to mix it up tonight. The pigments, like I said, lots of variations in colors. All right, that you can use. These are micas. They also have glitters for anybody that's interested in glitter. They sell this Stoner product. All right, this is a mold release product. You do not need very much, just a light hit with the spray, done. And what it does is it lets the pen blanks release out of the mold very easily. All right? The molds come in various different styles. So this is for pen blanks. This is just a flat square, right? I do lots of other things with resin, and I really like this mold because I can cast larger pieces and then cut out what I want for making different designs in pen blanks. I can use them in turkey culls, wine stoppers, ice cream scoop handles. I mean, there's just a long list of things that I can do if I want to slice this all up, right? You can also do the same thing. They do round tubes, right? Has anybody ever bought one of these and used it? I'll tell you a little secret. This is free for coming tonight. After you pour the blank, you think, well, how do I get the blank out of there? Right? Really simple. You're going to need an air compressor anyway, right? So you get your little handy dandy blower, give her a little shot of air, and stand back. You're laughing because you know the answer, right? Yeah, they're gonna pop out of there, right? That's how you get the pen blanks out. Just a bit of air, They'll come out like a missile. All right? It's all hand. These around. Molds for casting can also be made of lots of other types of equipment or materials. I use wood, I use UHMW, I use ABS pipe, yeah, lots of things, right? But silicone's the easiest to work with, right? Especially if you're just doing pen blanks. Definitely the easiest to work with.
Okay, with that mold release, did you use that on the EBS pipe?
Yep. So it's urethane mold release, right? So this should also mention, this is the old ones, the new ones. This is a urethane-based resin, thermosetting. It is not epoxy. Epoxy is not urethane. So epoxy reacts totally different than urethane does. All right? Urethane, you're also more prone, or epoxy, you're also more prone to have allergic reactions. All right? Not everybody can work with epoxy. And usually you find out when you break out in hives with epoxy, right? Epoxy, you should also wear a respirator, right? So as good as epoxy might be for certain things, health-wise, it's pretty nasty stuff, right? And when you're turning, obviously you need to wear the right respiratory protection, regardless of what you're turning, wood, resin, epoxy, the whole 9 yards. But like I said, this is a urethane-based resin, all right? As far as casting materials or molds from epoxy or from silicone, there are certain types of plastic that you can cast epoxy or urethane alumilite into. And the reason you'll know, you can look it up, but if you look at a piece of plastic, get my good-looking glasses on. So this is a type 1. And there's a little triangle, there'll be a number inside of it. So I believe for urethanes you can use 1, 2, 5, and 7. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's what they are. Oh, sorry. And this particular cup, it's a 1 as well. Right? So these cups are plenty good enough. A lot of people start mixing their resins. Popsicle sticks, I don't use popsicle sticks. Because time is not your friend. That is my mixing pot. Okay? It's fast, but it introduces air. And air is bubbles, and we don't want bubbles in the resin, but fortunately we have the pressure pot, and what the pressure pot does is it basically takes a bubble that's in the resin, and when you apply pressure equally when it's in the container, what it does is the forces on that bubble from the air pressure actually cause it to shrink. Right? This is not a foolproof method for getting rid of air bubbles, but for pen blanks, I can hardly count on one hand how many times I've actually found air bubbles, right? So, yeah, mixing it with the paddle is just a little more efficient, especially when you've got a time window. And I believe it's 12 minutes. If you read the directions, this is for the men. If you read the directions, on here somewhere, yep. Working time is 12 minutes. Demold time is 4 hours. All right. I actually demold in 2 hours. Right. I've been doing this long enough. 2 hours works fine. Right. Nothing's going to change. Bubbles aren't going to grow after you take it out of the pressure pot. Right. So demold to me is pulling it out of the pressure pot. All right. When you take the pressure off of it. So 12 minutes, note that. This used to be 17 minutes. They changed it for some reason, I'm not sure why. Probably because a lot of people using this resin are in the States and it's a lot warmer, gets a lot hotter. Remember, it's thermal setting, so heat will speed up the curing process. all right, just so you know. We got the resin, we got micas, we got, this is an original Alumilite gold. The urethane, the pressure pot, I'll show you before I get going in the pressure pot. All right, so all I'm going to do is watch the gauge in the front. I'm going to let it go up to 50 psi, shut the air off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the gauge for a minute or two, and I'm going to make sure the gauge holds steady. If it starts to drop a little bit, I'll let it keep dropping a little bit, so it might go down to, I don't know, 45, right? And then I'm going to top it back up again, and then I'm going to leave it. Disconnect the air and walk away. All right? If you overpressurize, there's a pressure relief valve here called PRV. All right? If you're putting air in, you're not paying attention, and you go over the pressure rating, and I couldn't find out what the PRV value is for PSI, but if I go too high, the PRV will release, which means it lets the air pressure out of the pressure pot. It's a safety device. What's going to happen inside the pressure pot is the vacuum, or the air that's being releases very fast. So it's equivalent to blowing in the top of a coffee cup. Right? So you're probably going to have a mess inside your pressure pot. Right? So find out what your PRV setting is. Always stay at least 10 to 15 psi below that. All right? So I run 75 psi on my PRVs. I change them all out, put 75s in, which is under the pressure value for the pressure pot itself that I have. I think this one, I think it's an 80. So yeah, I run it up to 55, maybe 60, right? You have a regular connector here, this here. This is your valve is your on and off. So when we want to let the air pressure back out, we're just going to open this valve up. All right? This is a nice pressure pot. It's got wheels, right? You can get replacement gaskets. And we have this, right? This is really nice because this is, I believe, UHMW. It's got resin on it, but the resin comes, you can take the resin right back off of it, it doesn't stick to it. If you're really worried about it, right, give it a little shot of that, sure helps it come off. One other thing that you should do with this tray, you can modify these, you make whatever you want. So I have the cylinders that I cast. You can actually have these with holes in them. So you can actually set the tube down inside and that keeps them upright. You don't have to worry about them falling over in the pressure pot. So you might have two of these, one with flat trays and one with holes in it. So an example would be 1.5 inch ABS pipe you're using as a mold. You can just set that 1.5 inch mold right down in your tray and put it in there. You don't have to worry about falling over. If you do that and it's open to the top, then I suggest you have another piece to go over the very top, because when you're filling that pressure pot, the air's coming in through here. It's the same effect as blowing in the coffee cup. You're going to get resin all over the inside of your pot while you're pressurizing it, and we don't want that. So you put another plate on top. I call that a baffle plate. Just something that the air hits it and then it just disperses over. So like this would be the baffle plate, and then all your trays for all your resins go down here, right? Don't be putting your molds up here and trying to max out on your pressure pot. Just do it on the next cast, right? So trays are very useful. So what might be the most important thing about the pressure pot and the trays? Any suggestions? Sorry?
Keep it level.
Keep it level. Turn your phone off for the demo, please.
So you're supposed to know if you put the dog out.
No, that's not the phone call. It's the feed the dog. Yeah. So, putting it level, yeah, it'll stop. It'll go to message.
When I
And if it's really important, they'll call me back. Yeah, so you get a level, you set it on there, make sure that it's level between the lines, that's good. And then the other thing to do is to put it, I can't get the handle in the way, but you put it the opposite way, all right? And check it again, make sure it's level. Because the last thing you want to do is put your resin in there and it sits like that, right? You'll have resin all over the place. And your pen blank won't be flat, it'll be on an angle. So just a little tip there. Yeah.
This something there.
So we're going to get ready, we're going to do a cast. How do we calculate for the volume?
Rice?
You can tell who's seen the demo before.
Sorry.
You can actually go to the site and I believe they'll tell you how to calculate for volume, right? But as Don so graciously told us, use rice. I find that's the easiest way to do it, right? And I'm going to fill this up. Do not give this back to your wife to cook supper with. So I'm basically just going to take this, fill it all up. Level it all off. It's close enough. Right? Just going to set it aside for a second. And I'm going to take all of that and I'm going to pour it in here. I'm going to take that rice. Where did I put the scale?
Right here in the box.
Like it? There's no math involved so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scale, make sure it's set, I'm going to turn it on, make sure it's set to grams. I'm going to make sure it's reading 0, and if it's not reading 0, I'm going to hit the tare button, which will set it to 0. Then I'm going to take my resin cup that I'm going to mix in. We set the cup on, right, and make sure it's set to 0. That's how much resin I need, right? Why am I weighing it?
Because you weigh your aluminite by weight, not by volume.
Yeah, that's not Alumilite.
It's rice.
It's rice. It doesn't even weigh the same, right? So we actually don't need the scale for this step. We need to know that we need that much resin, because if we're going by volume. So we're going to put a Sharpie line right there at the top of the rice. All right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit above that. All right? It's better to have too much resin than not enough resin. All right? So since I've already done this cast, I know how much resin it takes. It takes 150 grams. Right? So the easiest thing to do, and that's 150 grams of each resin. We don't need that anymore. Before we go further, so we should give this a shot of mold release. This doesn't take very much, right? Do not do your spraying in your casting area. Do it somewhere else. That gives it time to flash off. It should pretty much be dry anyway. So that's ready to pour. Now we're ready to put, we know the volume, so we're ready to put resin in. we don't need the rice anymore. So because I've already weighed it out before, I know how much to put in. It was 150 grams of each. So we've got some Alumilite A and Alumilite B. Right? So we're going to use up the A.
Can you just move that girl?
Dave, is there any issue in using different batches for the same mold? Like you're using 2 batches here of aluminite?
Yeah, so they've been using this, right? Because I asked him, is this still new, right? He said, yeah. Okay, yeah. Keep
So-
going.
But if one was like 9 months old and one was new, would that compromise?
9 months old, you're pushing it, so, you know, that'll get me closer to where I want to be. So yeah, anything over a year, I store mine in a dark place and a cool place. I've been successful over a year, right? No problem, so. All right, so we're at 67 and change. A, and we had A. So I'm going to keep going until I get to 150. A.
Dave, how did you switch your volume to grams? Besides this here?
I didn't switch my volume. I measured the volume with rice. All right? So the rice told me how full the cup was, right? And then what I did was you eyeball it, you go roughly halfway. But technically you can't go halfway. Number one, because the cup is tapered. Number two, just so you know, the resins don't weigh the same amount. So I've opened up the die, the pigments are open, they're ready to go. There we go. This has a twist lid to open it. All right, we leave that closed until we're ready to use it. I'm going to do both my colors separately. Actually, I only need one. One color is going to be in the cup, the other color is going to be in the second cup. All right? And what we need to do is the resins need to be mixed first. We don't put the resins in, put the dye, and put the pigment in, and away we go. You do the resin first, and you'll see why here in a second. All right? Everything's ready. We got our mixing paddle, we got our mold. So we got to wait a few minutes. We don't have any air pressure. That would have been bad. Good. It pops up real quick, so I'm not worried about that. So yeah, you have to mix your resin first. All right. When I pour these two resins together, they're going to go all murky, right? And there's already air bubbles in there, right? There's going to be more air bubbles. When I mix it, there's going to be even more air bubbles. There'll be like a champagne bubble, very, very fine, right? Which is okay. So I've set it back to 0. And I know I have to go to 150. I'm just looking to see how thick it really is. The B side resin is usually thicker than the A side. And the other thing is a bit of crust builds up on the B. Clean that off because it doesn't dissolve. That's not even worth pouring. It's so slow. All right, so we got the B-side resin, 150 grams. I know 150 grams is going to work because I've already done the cast. I've already passed it around. And if we were to start the timer, go, stopwatch, start. You don't need the scale anymore. Get that out of the way. Oh yeah, these are your best friends. Because we're doing two colors, one of the little tricks of doing two colors is measuring the temperature of the resin before you actually pour them together. So I'm going to mix this up now. I want another paper towel, maybe two. See how murky it is? Make sure the paddle's at the very bottom and not the very top. I keep the paddle right down in that bottom corner. For a minute and 5 seconds. Now, slow down. So the resin goes clear when it's mixed properly. This is why you mix it before you do anything else with it. And you make sure there's no, if it's not mixed properly, you might see some swirls or streaks in the resin. That means it's not done mixing yet. Resin's mixed. We're almost at 2 minutes. So I'm going to take this. I know from pouring these blanks a lot, you don't need much of the secondary color. The secondary color is going to be black, because that's what's going to give us the streaks. All right? So what I'm going to do, so I don't want to get any more resin on the resin that's already on the table. I'm going to set that there. To put all the resin I'm going to need for my secondary color. Make sure you wipe the lip off, because it'll more than likely drip. So that's going to be the black. A healthy dose of black is good. Number one, I don't want it to be opaque, or I don't want it to be translucent or transparent. Now I'm going to switch to the other color. And that just keeps dripping there, which is fine. Now this is the primary color. Yes, that's a lot. I have a tendency to wipe things off as I go because it just keeps things clean. We're at 4 minutes. That's it.
You got one drop?
Sure.
I couldn't tell.
It actually came out pretty quick, so I just stopped. So yeah, you only need 1 or 2 drops, all right? So when I mix the colors, I always mix the lightest color first and then go to the darkest color, right? That way if I don't get this cleaned off, it doesn't matter, especially with black, you're never gonna see it, right? Because the black will just disguise it. Watch the red. And I can see the pearlescence in the red already. And I still focus on the very bottom, making sure the A and the B are still staying mixed. Very slow. Five minutes and 45 seconds. How many minutes do we have done?
5:45 and up to 12.
Oh, that's the other thing. Thanks, Don. Make sure you have enough battery. That's it. You're done with the drill. And the paddle. Actually, no, I won't have that around. So we have our 2 colors, right? You sprayed it. Pressure pot's ready. Air's ready. Oh, I can feel it's getting warm already. 105 degrees. That's when we put the 2 colors together. So the cup with the most resin in it will get usually hotter than the other cup. Get rid of it. From up here, I think I've done this before.
Rather than record the temperature, and do you just know by time?
I can tell already it's really hot.
It's hot. Okay. So that's just experience that you
Yeah.
have.
But I'm still going to put the temperature gauge on it. $108. So I put it in the center, spilled a little bit. Put that on there. That's here, make sure your tabs are aligned. I just take them down finger tight. And then I cross tighten. I like this pressure pot because the chances of these tabs coming off are very, very slim. They have a nice seat for these to sit into and a lip they can't come off of. close the valve. Thank you. Hook your air up. So I can see. I'm going to slowly open the valve. Where's my 50? Here. Make sure your compressor will support however much air you're using. Come on, you can do it. I have a pancake compressor. It's forget the name now. Red. Quarter cable. Thank you. Yeah, it works great. So we are 48. So I'm going to go to 40, I'm going to go to 55, shut the valve. And the reason I watch the gauge now, there's a rubber seal, I want to make sure that seal is going to seat, right? And usually what happens while it's seating, it might let off some of the pressure. Once it's a couple of minutes, then you know it's seated or it's as good as it's going to get. And then you just watch it. And I just leave it. Now we just wait 2 hours. So I wait 2 hours and then we open it up and we take out the results. We're smart enough to close that.
So that pressure pot's rated for 80 pounds.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's rated for.
10 gallon?
That's a 5 gallon.
Goes at 5?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they are.
So you only go to 50. You don't take it up to like 65 or 70.
What are we at? 11:44, 45. So we're under 12 minutes, right? So we're good. Okay? Yep. No, because we poured them in at that temperature, the resin will solidify very quick, which means the color will be good separation. The colors. There'll be a little bit of mixing. Well, I poured it from height, so that's the reason why I poured it from above. You let the weight of the resin go in. So actually, when the blanks that went around, I believe one of the blanks actually has black on the bottom. That was the weight of the resin going down, right? It sinks. Just because of the sheer weight of the resin, it sinks to the bottom, right? It's not that it weighs more than the orange. It's just that I poured it from a different height. All right. Sorry, you had a question.
That was my question.
Oh, perfect.
You got one to swirl it, or
Pardon me?
you ever like swirl it? Like when you know.
All you're doing by swirling it is mixing it. So if you want to swirl it, you don't pour from as high. You just pour a layer on the top. Like at the very end when I was pouring, when it was coming out of the cup slow, yeah, you could take that and mix it in. All right, and that'll give you some more swirls. It's just something you just, it takes a few casts to get the hang of what you're trying to achieve, right? Another thing you can do is you can take the second resin, the secondary color, and you can buy those syringes, the plastic ones. You can actually pour the resin in the syringe, right? And then you can actually use the syringe by sticking it in and drawing it or moving it around, and you don't even see the secondary color because it's inside, right? So that's another tip for doing that. Yes?
If you're pouring an 1.5 tube that's a foot long, how do you get the resin at the bottom of that?
If you're doing a multicolor cast, I've never done anything that long. But if I was going to do it, I would take probably a syringe again, and you can get a small plastic hose and put it on, put it to the bottom, right? Now make sure you get the secondary color to the top of the hose, put it in and then start squeezing and pulling the hose at the same time. That's going to give you a straight line coming straight up. Then what you would do is take something like a coat hanger, piece of wire, little bend in it, put it in and just slowly turn it and bring it up and out. And that should give you a swirl as well, right? On a long cast. Sorry, yes, you. So for doing the resin, you can actually use vacuum because all you're doing is resin. All right, so the exact same thing happens in opposite with vacuum. So with air pressure, you're compressing the bubble down so you don't see it. With vacuum, it's actually going to suck the bubble out. But beware, because it's going to suck all the bubbles out. It's going to try and suck them all out at once, and it's actually going to look like it's boiling. So the bubbles are going to come to the top and pop. Right? And the other thing is, do you have enough time to pull the air bubbles out of the resin under vacuum? Because vacuum is slower than pressure. Pressure, it's the hydraulic way that it works, right? The reaction is instantaneous as soon as you put pressure on it. Right? I forget the law, but there's a law they have in hydraulics. As soon as you put pressure on, right, all sides, all forces are equal. Right? That's why the air bubbles go down, which is better. But you could use vacuum, right? If there's a longer open time resin, yeah, you can. Taking the air out of the resin is actually called degassing. Right? So if you're working with epoxy, you can degas it before you actually pour it. Because epoxy has a long open time. Yes?
Just one follow-up. If you're putting epoxy in wood,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
if you have a piece of wood that you're adding resin to, is it not better to vacuum versus
If it's not stabilized, you want to pressurize it. Because if you do a raw piece of wood and do it with vacuum, you're going to end up with an Aero chocolate bar in the resin. I guarantee it. Right? Yes? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Making a hybrid blank? Pressure. Pressure. I always use pressure. Yeah, you put the wood in the mold, you pour the resin in, pressure.
Stabilize the wood first.
Yeah, stabilizing the wood's a good idea, especially if you use dye, because if you don't, with dye, the dye will bleed into the wood. But that gives you a different effect. It's not a bad thing, it's just a different effect. Yes?
If you don't have pressure pot, you get away with Alumilite stone with just using a torch shed.
If you like air bubbles.
Sorry?
If you like air bubbles.
Okay, I just didn't go.
No, you're going to get air bubbles. Even if you mix it with a popsicle stick, you're still going to have air bubbles. All right? Yes?
How do you do this without a pressure pot?
Find somebody that owns a pressure pot.
No, seriously,
Take a class.
I've been told you can do it with a heat gun. So
Really?
what are your thoughts on that? And I've done it. 'Cause
No, that's all I'm going to say is no. It doesn't work. So the heat gun thing or flame torch was epoxy. So some people get the two resins confused.
Okay, so with epoxy.
With epoxy, I would degas it, then pour it. If I was doing like live edge, I would mix up some epoxy, put it on the live edge first, like brush it on super thin, right? Watch it with a torch. That's where your bubbles are going to come from, the live edge, right? Flame them off, make sure that epoxy is a good seal coat. Clear is always a good color, because you can't see it after you put a color in. And then after that sets up, depending on the epoxy, some of them are 12 hours, whatever. After that sets up, then I would come back right away and I would put my color in. And the best part of that is now I don't have to worry about air bubbles coming out of the live edge because they're sealed. All right?
What about using the mold with epoxy?
Using the mold with epoxy. I don't know if you can use epoxy with these molds or not. Some silicones.
You can.
You can? Okay, so yeah, you can. You just need a different mold release, right? If you're gonna do like the wood, then you have to have a way to hold them in. William Woodwright just sent out an email today and they tell you about putting little wedges in. That works. Another thing you can do is you can put this on a piece of plywood. All right? I would have sides on the piece of plywood that this fits into. And then what you can do is you can put an elastic band around it. Now we're talking epoxy, so you got lots of open time to play with this and get it ready. And make sure your blank is big enough so it's proud of the mold. That way when your elastic band goes across, it compresses the wood down into the mold. Right? So that's one way. Sorry, there was another question here. Yes?
The pressure law you're looking for is Pascal's law.
Pascal's law. Thank you very much, Martin. It's been so long since I got out of school. Were there any more questions? Yes, Martin again.
If you had something big within the pot, can you pressurize the resin in the pot first and then pour it in the mold?
As soon as you pressurize the resin, the bubbles shrink. Yay! As soon as you take the pressure off, they expand again. So no. Yeah. Yeah, my biggest pot is probably that high and about that big around. I built it myself, right? So normally I use a 5-gallon or a 2.5 gallon. Right? The 2.5 gallon probably gets used all the time. Right? Well, that's the one with the most wear and tear. So
So is the process for stabilizing it totally different? You use
vacuum.
vacuum.
Different product using cactus juice, which is available here. Great product, right? And you need a vacuum pump. 2-stage vacuum pump is the best, right? Oil, right? And then the stabilizing is a whole other process in itself. Depending on the wood, it can take you a day to stabilize a piece. It can take you 2 weeks to stabilize a piece, right? You're doing punky maple, spalted maple versus maple burl. I'm literally telling you, this one can be done in a day and this one's going to take me 2 weeks. It takes that long, right? Because the wood density changes. So wood density determines how long it's going to take you to do it, and you don't know what that density is until you start doing the process.
Use a similar pot.
You could use a similar pot for vacuum, because remember, a vacuum, they sell a lid for this. It sucks the lid down with vacuum, right? Which is nice, right? And you have to be able to see what you're doing, because the air bubbles tell you everything. Yes, Mike?
I cast a lot of fear, and my biggest enemy is humidity.
Oh yeah, humidity. Thank you.
If you put a dryer on your air compressor, like will those colors not turn cloudy?
Yeah, make sure you empty your compressor out regularly, get the moisture out of it. All right? You should be fine regardless. One of the things you have to do is, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning, it doesn't hurt to put these in the oven and heat them before you do your casting. Because what will happen, especially in the really humid weather, you won't see it, but you'll see it after you're done casting. All right? Ask me how I know. And along the sides of your blank, you'll get little bubbles. Right? That is the moisture reacting with the resin. This resin does not like moisture at all. Right? The same with the wood. If you're doing wood, any hybrid blanks, I always preheat them before I pour resin, because you don't know what moisture is on the side of that blank. Whether any time of the year, I'm always warming them in the oven. 120 degrees for maybe 20 minutes. That's it. Done.
You're talking about the stabilized wood they're using to make the blank with? Is that what
Stabilized or unstabilized wood, you have to heat it up, warm it up before you cast it. Yeah. Pure resin blanks doesn't really matter too much, right? Maybe heat the mold up. You can heat these up. It's fine. Am I out of time, dear?
Are you using a toaster oven?
Sorry?
Are you using a toaster oven?
That's exactly what I use, a toaster oven and I have a house oven. The house oven is for stabilizing, because I can put bigger pieces in, right?
The White
Anyway.
House love you.
That's it. I'm gonna get the boot here.